Yeah, what's going on, everybody? Welcome to the Awesemo.com NBA strategy show. Back again, sponsored by Underdog Fantasy. 2-game slate here on a Tuesday. I'm Dave Loughran at Loughy_D on the Twitters, LOUGHY_D. For those of you podcast listeners, you can watch me just tilt Doc Rivers all night, anytime the Sixers are on. Joined by Adam Scherer at Ship My Money DFS. Coming back from Vegas, a little bit happier, a little bit redder too. Let's see that forehead, man. Let's get a peek at that forehead. Oh yeah, that's good stuff.
Yeah, got a little burn.
Had a good time though.
Yeah, had a lot of fun. Nice break from sports. Didn't pay attention to sports at all. So yeah, that was nice.
What is your genetic makeup? What's your heritage? What are you? German?
Most countries in Europe, except
for
Italy.
Are you any Irish?
Yeah, Irish, German, Scottish, Polish, Romanian. I'm pretty sure if it's a country in Europe that is not known for their tans, I'm from there.
Okay. Yeah, I'm like 75% Irish, so
yeah.
You got it. Once you get a base tan, you're okay. You got to hit the base tan, but you just went straight towards like, let's see what I can do.
Yeah, just kind of happened to forget my face on the one day that I really couldn't afford to forget my face.
But you had a good time.
Yeah, a lot of fun. I'm kind of torn. Like, do I want to go back in a month, or am I good just waiting another 5 years? Like, I don't know, because like it's a lot, but it's also fun. It's
also a lot when what are you, 33 now?
32, yeah.
You're not old, obviously.
No, but I can't. Like, when you're there, you still want to like act like you're 22, and your body is just like, yeah, you're not 22, bro.
No, especially in the morning, or like trying to do stuff all day while drinking.
Yeah, well, and it's like everything's spaced out too. So like, you go to a pool party and you're talking like 11 a.m. to 6, but then if you're gonna do a nightclub, it doesn't open till 10:30. It's open till 4. So it's like you can't even like. I mean, obviously you can keep it going if you just do stuff in between, but like doing like 2 events is really difficult.
It is. Being out in the sun though. I like this Saturday. We go to my buddies each year for Derby Day, have a little party there. We start early afternoon and go, until nobody can go any longer. But we're not out in the sun all day, and it's going to be like 50 degrees anyway. So I'm not too worried about it. If I was hanging out in the sun all day and drinking like by a pool, you're not making it too long. There's no way.
No. And to be fair, we only did that. Well, we only did the out in the sun part one day. Like, we did pool parties every day, but we just got like cabanas other than the one day where we kind of just like last minute, we're like, yeah, let's just go. And that one was pretty painful.
Anyway, happy to have you guys with us. It'll be a fun show here. Hit that thumbs up.
With the World Series pennant.
What's that?
Somebody said my nose blends well with the World Series pennant.
Yeah, I mean, it does. Sure. Almost closer to the Taylor numbering and lettering.
Right.
Well, happy to have you guys with us, though. Hit that thumbs up. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't done so yet. And, if you want to, hit join down below. We got you covered. You get the free super chats each month, the custom emojis. It's like $2.99 a month. You don't have to. I do it because I like the badge. I like the iced up badge for the year. We'll always prioritize your questions and comments along with our premium Discord members as well. Yeah, the boy from Cali said, Dave, can we recap your Sixers for a bit? Sure. They're without Joel Embiid, they don't have a shot. There's not really, the truth is there's not much to say about it. I have 2 statements. One, Doc Rivers started DeAndre Jordan. He was minus 12 in 4 minutes with 2 turnovers. And they still had the lead at half because Paul Reed came out, played well. Then they went small and mixed it up. Spoelstra made adjustments. DeAndre Jordan starts the second half again. And then at one point, Doc Rivers, Adam, I know you didn't watch this game. At one point, Doc Rivers had Furkan Korkmaz and DeAndre Jordan on the court at the exact same time in a 7-point game in the second half. And I'll do you one better. After the game, being his normally defiant self, who just decides to shit on the media even when he makes bad decisions.
I saw this quote.
Yeah, he basically said like DeAndre Jordan's starting next game too, and we don't care what you think about it. Like, all right.
Like he had done well or something.
Right. Dude, honestly, all he does, literally all he does is post up under, and by post up, I don't mean he's actually posting up. I mean, he's just, as Paul Wall would use the term post up, like a mailbox, right? In Paul Wall terms, he'd post up under the basket, and if he grabs an alley-oop, he gets an alley-oop, and then they look cool. But that's all he does. He's completely useless everywhere else, man.
Yeah, I saw that quote. I had no idea what had happened in the game, but just based on what Doc Rivers said, I was like, okay, clearly he started DeAndre Jordan. DeAndre Jordan played like shit, like everyone knew he would, and he just decided to double down and say, I don't care what you think. I don't care if you're right. I'm going to do it anyway.
Right. I honestly have never heard him take responsibility for anything. Ever.
Dude, I mean, the response to the question about blowing all the 3-1 leads, he was like, yeah, I need to take responsibility for that, except for, these 3 things that made it just not my fault.
And then he said some shit like, yeah, when we played Detroit, they went on to win the finals. And apparently that's not even true.
I didn't.
Yeah. The year he was talking about blowing a 3-1 lead to the Pistons. Of course they didn't win the finals. When's the last time the Pistons won the finals?
04, 05.
Oh, was it? Did they win in 05?
Whenever the Ben Wallace team was.
I can't remember. Either way, I don't know. Maybe he's right. Somebody had said that wasn't true. It's besides the point. Old Glenn just doesn't care. But yeah, Doug, I said, man, listen, if DeAndre Jordan starts, hammered that -2.5 on the Heat in the first quarter, it would have worked, essentially anytime if you're just going for the game. But the first quarter, yeah, we got that. We got the Harden under 42.5 points, rebounds, and assists. A lot of contention on that one, but we ended up being right. And then over Bam Adebayo, 32.5 points, rebounds, and assists. We hit that in like the third quarter. So that's good. Check out my Odd Shopper video, player props for the NBA every day. Well, Monday through Friday. And then our boy Aton's covering it on the weekends. I missed on those Mavs threes though. But anyway, let's dive into this.
Sean Dre said players win chips, not coaches. I agree with that, but coaches can lose them.
Yeah. But like to act like coaches have no impact whatsoever when you have Furkan Korkmaz and Jordan on the court at the same time in the second round of the playoffs.
Yeah, I think it's a lot easier for coaches to lose games, lose series than it is for them to win them.
Yeah. Like coaches can't make shots, but they can make decisions to put the best players on the court. And once again,
and most importantly, it's to just not do stupid shit and screw up.
You know what's amazing though? This is what blows my mind. Doc made a good second quarter adjustment and they go into the half with a 1-point lead. Okay. And then he comes back out and starts DeAndre Jordan in the second half.
Right.
What? And somebody had said to me on Twitter, yeah, but maybe he's doing it because Paul Reed's going to foul out otherwise against Bam. I don't care. Let him foul out.
Right.
What is that? What does it matter if he fouls out early or late? This is what I've never understood when it comes to a guy like Paul Reed. What difference does it make at this point?
The only difference it makes is if they're targeting them on defense and it's hurting you defensively. But other than that, yeah, it doesn't matter if you're sitting him on the bench by choice or because you were told you had to.
Right. But what I'm saying is, for all you know, he doesn't foul out,
right.
And then you just wasted him on the bench.
Right, exactly. Yeah, like I'm saying if it's like, if you're in the third quarter and he has 5 fouls, that's different just because you're talking about a prolonged period of time where he's just going to be a defensive liability. But yeah, if you're just saying like, oh, well, he has 3 fouls now, or oh, he might pick up fouls, like those are all stupid reasons not to have your best players on the floor.
The big run they made was going small without Jordan or Reed on the floor, and then Jordan ended up still playing 16 minutes. He played 4 minutes in the first half and 12 in the second. It's madness. It's madness. I hope he goes to the Lakers. That would be hilarious. They're talking about him being a candidate to go coach the Lakers, but that would be so fitting.
Yeah, I had the same thought when I saw that.
All right. I know Reed, I'm going to sneeze. Woo. I know Reed had foul trouble, Paul. I'm saying, who cares?
Right.
Who cares? Start him in the second. He had 3 fouls. All right. DeAndre Jordan had 2. It's dumb. Whatever. Besides the point. Mavs ended up making some inroads and almost, catching Phoenix, but it was too little too late. Phoenix, just a better team. Devin Booker looked good. back to full strength, or so it appears. Milwaukee and Boston. Let's talk about this. Milwaukee getting that win last game, man, and that was, I don't want to say it was surprising, obviously, because Milwaukee is the reigning champs, but no Chris Middleton. Giannis dropped a triple-double in like the third quarter. He was outstanding. The biggest thing in that one, though, Boston just could not hit anything from beyond the arc.
Yeah, I'll take your word for it.
All right. Well, you didn't watch. That's right.
Yeah, I have no idea.
All right. Well, then let's talk about what you want to do with Milwaukee today.
I mean, more of the same. Like Giannis at 11-4 still looks good. We know it's a tough matchup against Boston, but only a 2-game slate. You don't have like a Jokic type pay up option. You don't have an Embiid type pay up option in addition to Giannis. So not much opportunity cost as far as at that top tier. Should play a lot of minutes, should be a competitive game. So I think Giannis looks great. And then, you've gotten pricing adjusting a bit on guys like Holiday and Portis with Middleton being out. But I do still think that there's some upside there. You got 32.5 minutes from Portis last game. We know that Holiday typically in competitive games is going to give you 36 plus and get some increased production without Middleton as well. So I think all three of those guys really stand out for Milwaukee.
Giannis is getting almost 40% ownership right now. The top 3 owned players on this 2-game slate are from this game on both sides. Obviously, 1 from Milwaukee, 2 from Boston. Just pulling up the rotate. I wanted to see something from this rotation here. Because obviously they got the win, but Boston still a good defensive team. And it was still a very low scoring game, 190 total points in this one. You had what, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 player rotation in this, it looks like, because Budenholzer emptied the bench at the end.
Yeah,
so
it was 8 in the first half.
What's that?
It was 8 in the first half.
Yeah, and really 8 in the second.
And for the game until the last minute.
Yeah, exactly. So Giannis plays 38, Holiday plays 36, Portis plays 33, Lopez got 28, Wes Matthews 29, Grayson Allen still played 29, and Pat Connaughton played 20. And then Javon Carter played 22 minutes in this one as well. When it comes to somebody like Carter, and you're just looking at value on a slate like this, where you don't really have a lot of cheap options, you have, Gary Payton, we'll talk about him, Otto Porter in the second game as well. Is there any merit to trying to get to a little bit of Javon Carter, or at least being okay with it when you do? Or is there not enough meat on the bone there at the minutes he's getting? Because he's almost minimum salary.
Yeah, I was going to say trying to get to him certainly wouldn't be how I phrase it. But if you have a lineup you really like and you need somebody in that price range, then somebody like Javon Carter or Wesley Matthews, sure, like it's probably not going to work out. You're probably not going to be happy with the result. In the postseason so far, Carter is at 0.62 DraftKings points per minute in 17 minutes per game. Wesley Matthews, we know, is about a half fantasy point per minute guy. Minutes should be there, particularly for Matthews at 3,300, but again, probably 17 to 20 minutes somewhere in there for Carter. So certainly not guys I'm trying to get to. I would like to avoid them if I can. But if you're talking about in one individual lineup where you just love everything else in your lineup and you need to fill that spot out, then sure, go for it.
What about Connaughton and Grayson Allen? Allen's price is, I guess it's reasonable. I mean, it's a much tougher matchup than he had last game against the Bulls, who just defensively were putrid, but he is still at least someone that's going to get some 3-point attempts up. His ownership is particularly low on this slate. His price has come down from 5,200 where it was in that last game against Chicago. I mean, he's not going to be a high volume shooter, but with Middleton out, if you still get around 28 to 30 minutes from him, what do you think of Grayson Allen today?
So I think that you're overpaying a little bit, but there is still a ceiling there because you have seen increased production without Middleton. But the thing you have to keep in mind is that while he's at 1.1 DraftKings points per minute, a big reason for that increased production is that he's shooting 65% from 3, still only has an 18.5% usage rate. He's averaging 27 minutes per game in the 4 games that he's played without Middleton. So it's not like you're talking about somebody that is being forced into like a substantially larger role in the offense, but you are talking about somebody that's sub 5K, likely to play around 28 minutes, and is at least capable of getting hot from 3. Guys like that, if they're pulling ownership, I'm really not interested at all. But when they are low owned, I don't mind kind of overpaying and just hoping that he shoots well, because we know the upside is there. It's just that you're not going to get it very often. Connaughton, I think, is the better value, being $900 less expensive. He's averaged 0.89 DraftKings points per minute, about 24 minutes per game in the games without Middleton. So between the two, I think that you're typically just going to be better off saving money and going Connaughton. But I also expect that to be the consensus.
It is interesting, though, that, Pat Connaughton was the guy in the regular season when Chris Middleton was out who would play around 30 minutes. And now you're seeing Grayson Allen get around the 30-minute mark, and Connaughton's hovering between 21 and 23. I'm not saying you can't see that change, but in the first series and in the first game of this series, Connaughton is definitely, to some extent, actually taking a backseat role in terms of, seeing some of those minutes chopped off.
Yeah, without a doubt. And it's not like he's a great point per minute guy anyway. He has been at 0.89, like I said, in the games without Middleton, but typically you're talking around 0.8 fantasy points per minute. But it's just that the salary is so cheap that, like, I'm not super excited to get to Pat Connaughton either, but I would rather get to Connaughton than somebody like Wes Matthews or Javon Carter if I can help it. And I would rather save the money off of Grayson Allen.
Sure. Do you think there's anything else worth touching on when it comes to Milwaukee today?
Not really. I mean, Brook Lopez is 4,800. It's a 2-game slate. He's certainly playable. Played 28 minutes in game one, was not in what was going to be the closing lineup. There you had Portis, Giannis, Matthews, Holiday, and Grayson Allen. No guarantee that that's the case again. But even if he does only get 28 minutes, he can certainly still pay off 4,800. But I think it's pretty much a price tag where he's correctly priced, whereas I think guys like Portis, Holiday, and Giannis are more underpriced. And somebody like Connaughton isn't necessarily more underpriced, but he's just cheaper in real terms. So he's just opening up more in your lineup than Lopez would.
All right, let's talk about the other side of this one. So with Boston, also, we have free content on the site today, a lot of it. If you're looking to get in on that action, NBA player projections, free. MLB ownership projections are free. Big slate in the Major League Baseball tonight. PGA Top Golfers tool is free. And NHL ownership projections for the postseason tonight are all free. If you don't need an account or anything, but if you wanted to and decided, hey, I want to check out all the tools that they have instead of just one day getting one free one for each sport, go to awesemo.com/join. You can do a week, a month, a year, one sport. You can do every sport. And by every sport, I mean every sport. You're talking PGA, MMA, NASCAR, football, baseball, basketball. You have like F1 projections, USFL projections, esports, anything that's out there. If they have contests, we have content for it. All the tools imaginable, top stack, boom bust, top pitchers tool for baseball, top stacks for baseball, player projections, all of the projected stats, the lineup builder, and a whole lot more. So awesemo.com/join. And like I said earlier, it doesn't matter what your budget is, what your style of play is. You can do it for a week, a month, a year, and really cater it to whatever you're most comfortable with. So check it out and be sure to join our Discord as well. All right. Boston attempted 51 threes last game. In the 4 times that they have played the Bucks this season, they've attempted 50, 47, 49, and like 43 threes. The clear formula for them is just to get up as many threes as possible. And we've seen that against Milwaukee. We've seen many teams try and combat the Milwaukee Bucks this way because they're very good at in the paint defense, particularly with Giannis and Brook Lopez. I expect to see a lot more of that today. They just didn't shoot well from 3 last game.
Yeah, and it's, like you said, even during the regular season, you see teams attack Milwaukee like that, and it's been that way for years. So, like, I'd seen somebody in chat earlier say that Boston needs to not shoot as many threes this game. I mean, that's what Milwaukee is going to give them, and they're going to obviously need to make them to have some success. But I think that it is likely, like you were saying, that they shoot better. I mean, it's not like they don't have decent shooting on this team. So I think you can expect more of the same.
Me too. I think I'm going to be going back to some over props on the 3-pointers for the Boston Celtics tonight. Might be throwing that one in the video. Might be, yeah, that's definitely a possibility here. But let's start with Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown. Second and third highest projected owned players on the slate today, Adam.
Yeah, I think they're both just pretty cheap given that they're going to play a ton of minutes. You got 40 minutes from Tatum in game one, 38 minutes from Brown, and neither one's particularly expensive. We've seen Jason Tatum play really well this postseason. Milwaukee obviously is a good defensive team, but still going to be a huge part of Boston's offense. I think that goes without saying. He's at 1.18 DraftKings points per minute, 41.4 minutes per game in the postseason overall, 29.7% usage rate, 28% assist percentage, just a very, very high ceiling for Tatum. And then similarly for Brown, he takes a back seat to Jason Tatum typically, but you're getting a $2,100 price drop on DraftKings for Brown. He's averaged 38.5 minutes per game in the postseason, 25.5% usage rate, 18% assist percentage, a fantasy point per minute. Both of those guys, I think, look very, very good here.
You think Marcus Smart's going to play?
I would assume so, but I also don't know what happened to him.
He's dealing with a quad. I mean, I think he plays. I definitely think he plays. There are props for him already up. And usually at least, you don't really see guys with like a full assortment of props here. And he does. And even on Pinnacle, like you've got Marcus Smart props across the board. So I assume that he's going to be active today. I don't know how much of a hindrance it's going to be dealing with this quad. He still played 33 minutes in that loss. Do you think that Marcus Smart is a viable option here at a mid 6K price point?
Viable, sure, because it's a 2-game slate, but I do think amongst the Boston guys, I have less interest in him. Like when you just compare him to the two guys we already talked about, clearly a wildly different price tier than Jason Tatum, but I still think that at 9,800, Tatum is more underpriced than Smart is. And then with Jaylen Brown, like he's more expensive as well, but 1,500 isn't that difficult to make up. I think Brown also more underpriced at 7,700. And with Smart, it's just tough because for one, he's the type of guy where from talking DFS at 6,200, you never really know what you're going to get from him. If he gets hot and knocks down some open threes, you're going to get a good game. And Milwaukee will probably live with Marcus Smart being the one to take a lot of threes for Boston. So you do have that upside there, but he's also not a consistent shooter. You're kind of relying defensive stats and efficiency and guys converting his assists and all that, but then you also don't know how banged up he is. There's certainly a chance that he's quote unquote good to go and he's just playing at 75% or something like that. Maybe focusing more energy on the defensive end. Which
we lose him.
What?
Oh, you're back. Focusing more on the defensive end of what? Because you cut out for a second.
Oh, I said, there's a chance that maybe he's just playing, like at 75%, and you see him just kind of expending more energy on the defensive end and not doing as much offensively. So I basically just think that there's a lot of risk, both from a health standpoint and also from he's Marcus Smart standpoint.
What about Al Horford? I mean, he was playing huge minutes, then Williams returns. The one game against Brooklyn, game 2, 32 minutes, but he fouled out. He would have played considerably more minutes than that. The next game was 28 minutes. I'm not sure what to think there, but then he played 26 minutes in that closeout game, which was game 4. And he literally lost a lot of minutes because he caught his third foul 13 seconds into the second quarter and never returned. And then he ended up playing all but 4 minutes in the second half. So it's encouraging to see Horford get back to 36 minutes. Obviously, Robert Williams is back and healthy again, but Horford has not been that bad. I mean, he's someone that can contribute kind of across the board, low usage player, decent rebounder, decent passer, can give you a couple of stocks, kind of just gives you a little bit of everything here, which I think at 5,800 is perfectly reasonable today.
Yeah, I think it's a pretty decent price tag there. He's averaged just shy of 33 minutes per game in the postseason, 0.95 DraftKings points per minute. I expect similar production here. It is encouraging that he played a lot of minutes last game, and he has been key in slowing down Giannis in the past. So yep. I do think that it makes sense to expect him to play a lot, assuming that he's not in foul trouble. The one, if you had to point to one thing that was somewhat concerning last game from Horford's standpoint, he played 36 and a half minutes, but Robert Williams only played 22 and a half. Grant Williams still got to 28 and a half. So what happens if Robert Williams does play 28 minutes? Does that mean that Horford is back to 28 as well? I don't necessarily think that's the case, but I think that's kind of the risk. But assuming he's playing relatively well, I expect that he kind of is going to, average out to around 32, 33 minutes here, which makes him look pretty decent at 5,800.
Do you want to play Robert Williams would be the obvious next question. Sub 5K. He hasn't played 22 minutes is the most minutes he's played since returning. Of course, he missed the first 2 games of that Brooklyn series, played 16, then 14, and then 22. Reasonable to assume he plays around 24 today?
I think so. I mean, he could play more too, because the kind of the one question I have is he wasn't in Boston's closing lineup last game, but could that just have been a case where the game wasn't competitive? So, like it was competitive enough that you still had, Tatum and Brown and those guys out there, but could Boston kind of just said like, all right, realistically, we're not coming back in this game. Why have Robert Williams, coming back from injury out there for an extra 4 minutes? Whereas if it had been a competitive game, does he sub in for Grant Williams at some point? Does he sub in for Al Horford at some point? And, maybe even get to 26 minutes in that game. So I think projection wise, I'm pretty comfortable going a couple minutes higher than 22, but it wouldn't shock me if in a competitive game, you got several more minutes.
Anybody else for Boston worth discussing towards the bottom of this player pool?
And so I guess to answer your question, yeah, I do like Robert Williams at 4,900 because that's a price tag where even if he does play 24 minutes, he's going to look decent. And there's just there's a lot of room for upside, a lot of uncertainty there. As far as the value guys go, there's nothing that you're going to be like confident in. Grant Williams minutes have been good. He's not a good point per minute guy, but 4K, he's certainly in that like Pat Connaughton territory. I think the same can be said for Derek White, where he hasn't played nearly as much in the postseason as I expected. He only played 16 and a half minutes last game. You still have Peyton Pritchard in the rotation as well. So I have no real confidence in Derek White, but he is also only $3,800. If he happened to play well and steal minutes from somebody, it wouldn't be the most surprising thing. So assuming he's very low owned, then I don't mind getting there. If he's getting ownership, I would rather just go somewhere else.
All right. 1 down, 1 to go. Golden State and Memphis up next. That was a fun game last time out. I know you were in Vegas, probably incoherently inebriated and unfamiliar that basketball was a sport.
No, but we had this one on in the cabana.
Oh, okay. I'm just kidding. I don't actually think you were just straight blackout drunk the whole time.
No,
did you black out at any point on the trip?
No.
Okay. Did you brown out at any point on the trip?
No. I mean, no, like I didn't. There's things where like I know what I did and I know what was going on, but like things just like run together. But
things can get fuzzy, but that comes with the territory for sure. What were you drinking? What was your go-to throughout the week?
I mean, so at the pool parties, typically vodka, mixing in some beer just to slow it down.
Vodka what?
What?
Vodka what?
Vodka pineapple, vodka cranberry.
Okay.
The first night we started with vodka. I ended up doing a decent number on a bottle of champagne. So it's kind of just mixing that stuff.
All right. Dude, we start and mixing wine and I guess champagne's, but no, like mixing wine and liquor can do people dirty sometimes.
Oh yeah. Yeah, I tried. So after the Gronk party, we went. Me and one of my friends went to get sushi, and I got wine there. And it was like my second glass of wine is when it just like I hit the wall and was like, all right, time to go to bed. And then I guess Sunday night we had gone to a pool party and we were talking about going to the nightclub and we were like, we'll go get dinner, see how we feel. I ordered wine with dinner and just like halfway through the first glass, I was like, I shouldn't have done that. Should have just gone like water or beer or something that wasn't wine.
I don't enjoy drinking alcohol with a meal. I actually don't even do it. Even when
I don't. Okay.
You first.
When I drink alcohol with a meal, I drink it and then my meal comes and I don't touch it. I eat my entire meal and then I finish it. Like,
oh, well, that's different. But there are a lot of people that are like sipping in between bites.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like, just
give me water.
I don't. Yeah, exactly. Like, I'll drink water while I'm actually eating.
I like drinking as much as the next guy, but I just like the beer with the dinner. It never did it for me.
I've never like eating really slows me down. Like it's like really important for me to eat when I'm drinking because it slows me down so much. because like I'm not the one like taking a bite and then taking another sip of beer and then taking a bite. It's just like, oh, well, I'm not touching alcohol for 30 minutes or whatever.
And Chandre says that too much alcohol is not good. Take it easy, Adam.
Yeah.
Not sure you knew that, but too much alcohol, not good.
Yeah, no, I did a good job of drinking a lot of water this time too. Like,
Good.
Yeah.
You have to pregame with water. Sounds crazy, right? Like pregame, but you do. You have to, before you drink anything, chug like 80 ounces of water, not in one shot, but just knock back as much water as you possibly can and set yourself up for a wonderful evening.
yeah,
Instead of Chandre telling you not to drink, I'm going to tell you how to drink. All right.
right. Yeah. Well, and I just did a good job, like when we were out, just mixing water in.
Yeah. The real trick, just to avoid a hangover, is just stop drinking before it's too late in the night. If I'm drinking past like 10, and I'm not saying hanging past 10, I'm saying if I'm still crushing shots and knocking them back after 10, the next morning sucks. If I stop drinking at a decent hour and then just carry the buzz throughout the night, I wake up feeling mostly okay these days.
Yeah, the only time I actually had a hangover in Vegas was the first night, and I think that's because like I'd slept for 2 hours, had like a 5 a.m. flight in, didn't take a nap or anything. We went, hung out by the pool, drank, went to the strip club to watch the draft, quote unquote. So like it was just a long day, and just woke up super hungover. But after that, it was just pool parties in the afternoon. Basically, was all we did, and so I'm crashed by like 10, waking up feeling great the next day and ready to like do it again. So that was nice.
And you hit some hair of the dog that morning.
Or didn't even need it.
No, the morning you were hungover.
Oh, the morning we were hungover. Yeah, that one was rough because like we were all dead. It was the day of the Gronk party, so we're like in our cabana, just like dead, like we don't even want to be here. But then our host just started sending up girls, and so we started drinking more, and we were fine.
Nice. So
fixes everything.
I want to get to all of this. I just have to hit on 2 comments real quick. First, Red Skittle said, Laffy saved my life with the liquid IV / bottle of water before bed. Yeah, it is a good trick. You got to drink water beforehand too. But if you crush a liquid IV, I prefer the strawberry, and then I'll drink another bottle of water on top of that. And then, you set yourself up nice. But
yeah, I've never done the liquid IV. Like I've heard great things.
It helps.
And
actually, I have a 64 pack downstairs.
The day I was hungover, Leslie that worked here was actually staying at my hotel also, and she had liquid IV and was like trying to find me. I told her I was down at the pool, so she's like trying to find me, but I couldn't like describe where at the pool I was, so I ended up not finding her, not getting it.
It helps though. It really does. And this is one thing I'll never understand. And more power to you if you can do it. D Bill says, I always drink a water after each drink to stay hydrated. There's no way when I'm in the zone that I can pause for water after and between ever. I respect you for it. I can't do it.
No, what happens, even if I go in with that mindset where it's just like, I'm going to drink a lot of water, it's like, all right, drink water, drink, drink. Oh shit, I forgot water. Like maybe I'll take one.
And then everyone's like, all right, we're doing a shot. You're like,
right.
Well, I just finished my beer. Give me 5 minutes.
Right.
Let me finish this. You can't. Yeah, it's just tough. All right. Golden State, Memphis. But first, Underdog Fantasy. They just released the $10 million contest, Adam. 10 million.
That was great. $1 million to first for the regular season winner too. Nice addition.
Oh, is it?
Yeah, so it's $2 million.
That's a great idea.
Yeah, it's $2 million to first, like in the normal tournament, $1 million to second, and then $1 million to like the overall points winner.
Highest score.
Yeah, through round 1. So the
great
first
idea.
Whatever. Yeah.
Well, I'm just saying by regular season, you don't mean like actual regular season. You mean regular fantasy season.
Yeah, so it's through round 1 of the underdog playoffs. Whoever scores the most points.
And I think that goes through week 14. I think it's week 14. It would have been week 13 before, but now that you have the 18-week season, right? So yeah, I think it is. Either way, it's sick. That's a great format. And you got the 25K Tuesday shoot around today. They got great basketball contests too. 5K up top over at Underdog Fantasy. Just head over there, underdogfantasy.com. Click the link in the description down below in the description and or download the app, however you want to do it. Download it in the App Store, Google Play Store. But when you sign up, if you want to double your first deposit up to $100, use that promo code Awesemo, AWESEMO. You'll double your first deposit up to $100. Get in on Underdog Fantasy with the NBA playoffs. They've had some really great stuff going on, and they have prop contests as well. So it's not just, NFL best ball, but dude, I'm getting in some NFL best ball drafts for sure. Like very shortly, $10 million prize pool, lots of millions going around. So you're saying 3 different people win at least $1 million?
Yep.
Okay. I'm in. UnderdogFantasy.com. Best ball drafts specifically for NFL are the greatest things ever, because the draft is fun, and then you don't have to do shit for the rest of the season, which is oftentimes what we're looking to do around here. Golden State, Memphis, Klay Thompson's probable, Andre Iguodala's out. Just throwing those out there. We should be fine. Not much to worry about. I know you hadn't paid attention to much, but did you see what Jordan Poole did last game?
No.
Okay. So Jordan Poole came off the bench, right? Guy plays 37 minutes, drops 31, 8, and 9 with 2 blocks. 31, 8, and 9, 12 for 20 shooting, 5 for 10 from deep. They won by 1 point. Jordan Poole was a difference maker in this game. He's 6,900 now. So you best believe I'm going to ask you first about Jordan Poole, even with Steph Curry back in the starting lineup. What do you think of that price point?
I mean, I think it's certainly still playable. Like, he's still going to get a lot of minutes. You have to, the concern is that he could lose usage here and there, but 37.5 minutes last game, still had a 29.5% usage rate, actually led the team by a wide margin. Steph was at 22.5, Klay was at 24.5, Draymond in his 17 minutes was somehow at 23%. But yeah, I mean, I think one way or the other, Poole is in the closing lineup. Like, I don't expect Gary Payton to be in the closing lineup, assuming that Draymond doesn't get ejected again. So I still think that 6,900 for Poole looks pretty good. Starting, coming off the bench, I don't think it really matters.
Hank says, Awesemo has completely fallen off. They used to average 1K live viewers, now only 400. What happened to Awesemo? We never did 1K on the strategy show. That would be ridiculous to do 1K live. Almost 500 for playoffs on a Tuesday morning. I don't know. Find somewhere else that's doing that. He's thinking probably deeper dive live before a lot. I mean, we're pulling over 2K in the playoffs for that, north of 3,500 in the regular season, live, concurrent, real flesh and blood viewers, Adam.
Yeah, I don't remember ever doing that on morning shows. That would be weird. But definitely not on a 2-game basketball slate.
No, in the regular season, we'll pull like 600s or so, early in the season, probably up to 700, 800, but that's when people are real stoked. And yeah, it's the way it goes. But no.
So somebody said, did you meet Gronk? No, but I will say, and this won't be a surprise to anybody. Like, normally when you're at events and there's, like some celebrity hosting, they like show up for an hour and then they dip out, they get their money, they leave. That dude was on the stage just wobbling around dancing for like the entire day. Like, I feel like Gronk just gets to be himself. Like, he probably would have been there anyway if he wasn't promoting it, but he just gets paid to be himself for like the entire day and just like loves that shit.
Yeah, that sounds like a blast.
Yeah.
Do you think he'd be fun to hang out with though? Honestly? Is he too broy?
Right, that's the thing. Like, I'm sure it would be a good time, but it would also be like a lot.
Yeah, exactly. I think it would be a decent amount, but anyway, hit that thumbs up if you want to help us not fall off. As Hank says, we need to stay on the up. And in order to do so, subscribe, hit that thumbs up, join the channel, whatever you got to do. We're begging you, please. All right. I'm just kidding, but it would help for sure. Steph Curry. You have Giannis Antetokounmpo. You have John Morant, Jason Tatum, Steph Curry now starting, playing big minutes again. Is he still like a distant fourth among those guys?
Among Tatum, Giannis, Morant.
Yeah, and Curry.
Steph?
Like
Yeah,
of the four, yeah.
I don't know if I would say distant, but
he's still fourth.
Right. Yeah. I still think he's fourth, even at the cheaper price tag. Just because with Steph, It's always, and you see this during the regular season as well. He doesn't rebound at the same rate as somebody, obviously, like Giannis or even like Tatum. He doesn't get assists at quite the same rate as somebody like Morant or like Giannis. And even his usage rate's a little bit lower. Like you can expect a higher usage rate from all of Giannis, Tatum, and Morant. So Steph certainly still has a really high ceiling because he's Steph Curry and he can just go drop 10 3-pointers kind of at will. And that's always in his range of outcomes. But from a projection standpoint and like what can you rely on him to do? He just isn't quite the same fantasy option as those other guys. So I do think that he's still a little bit behind them, but he is also a little bit cheaper as well.
Marv Perry asked a great question. Now I'm going to phrase this differently because I'm a professional. Did you make any connections with females while you were out in old Sin City?
Yeah.
Unpaid connections.
Actually, yeah.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Tell us all. I'm sure everyone would love to hear it.
What happens in Vegas stays in Vegas, man.
I don't want to hear this. Norm Macdonald has the greatest joke on that ever, where he's basically like, it just means that the hooker's not going to go home and tell your wife.
Right.
Right? Like, it doesn't actually. I'm not doing it justice, and I can't remember exactly how he said it, but it's such a good joke because of course nothing stays in Vegas,
Right.
He's like they're not like those small town whores that go into. It makes perfect sense what he's saying. Point is, did you get numbers? Like how far did this progress?
Numbers. Yeah, I mean,
phone number or hotel room number?
Phone.
Okay. And
would have probably gone better had I made it out after the pool party on Saturday.
Yeah, probably. All right. I'm going to dig a little bit deeper after the show. What else do you want to talk about with the Warriors?
Somebody said the STDs come home with you.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I mean, for the rest of Golden State, like Draymond, obviously you're expecting more than 17 minutes. I think 6,500 looks like a good price tag for him. Should get 34 to 36 minutes, around the fantasy point per minute guy. Thompson, you kind of never know what you're going to get. He's another one, I mean, even to a much greater extent than Curry, where he's very scoring dependent. You're still going to have those games where he shoots the lights out, but 7K is pretty tough. So I think more of a secondary option. Same goes for Wiggins at 5,700. Peyton at 3,500, I think is interesting. Started last game, played 23 minutes. Typically, he's around the fantasy point per minute guy. He did pretty much the same thing in game one. I think that he's probably going to be really popular, assuming he starts again. He's cheap. You're not going to have much value here, but certainly would get to him before I get to somebody like Connaughton.
Man, chat wants more details.
I'm good.
What?
I said, I'm good.
Okay. All right. Don't get all defensive, man. Just asking questions.
No, I wasn't defensive.
I'm joking. All right. So John Moran on the other side of this one. Oh, was there anything else I had to plug, Jordan? What did I have something else? I swear I did.
We have a 7 days for $7 promo.
Oh shit. You're right. It is not. Let me refresh to make sure I'm not wrong here because I do not see it on
Luca. It's in the show host channel.
It's not on my sheet. You see it on mine? I don't. That's a sick deal though. I see. If I knew that, I would have done it earlier when I. You know what? I'll wait till it's on. I'm not even going to do it. I'll do it on the deeper dive tonight. I do not see it anywhere, so I don't even know if it's active yet. Anyway, let's talk about John Moran and the fact that this guy is absurdly good. And his peripherals, man, his peripherals are out of control right now. And this is something you made a great point to me the other day when it's something you and I have discussed forever. Like, hey, maybe they have a bad day scoring, but if they give you 20 combined points and assists, you're still putting yourself in a really good spot with a high floor. Listen to his rebound and assist total since game 2 against Minnesota. 19, 20, 23, 22, 19, and 19. It's insane.
Yeah, overall in the postseason now, so 7 total games, only a 29.4% usage rate. I say only because that's down a little bit for him, but a 44.5% assist percentage, in addition to a 12.7% rebounding percentage. He's averaging 23.3 points per game, but 8.7 rebounds, 10.4 assists, nearly 2 steals, 37 minutes. I mean, he's been fantastic. And in any of those games where he does happen to shoot well, happen to score a lot of points, he's just going to put up ridiculous fantasy numbers.
No question. At this rate, I mean, I'm looking at Ja Morant as obviously not as Giannis, but that $10,000 price point is more than warranted. You know, he's going to play big minutes, 38 minutes last game, game 4 or game 5 against Minnesota. He played 45 minutes. He's basically a floor of probably 36, 37 now, which for Taylor Jenkins is a lot. I don't know. I just want to keep getting back to Ja Morant as long as he continues to put up these ridiculously egregious numbers in every category. But how do you want to approach Dillon Brooks? Brandon Clark played another 30 plus minutes last game. And then Desmond Bane seems to be a legitimate questionable here. So here you have yet another team. And then Jaren Jackson, where if he's not in foul trouble, he's playing big minutes. He's coming off a 33 actual point game against the Warriors.
Yeah, a ridiculously good game last time out. It's just a matter of foul trouble mostly. But the one thing I will say about Jackson that I think is a really big positive is that at least not in foul trouble, he did play 31 minutes. You would still like that to be a bit more, but we had seen times, and he did lose about a minute and a half at the end of the first half to fouls, but at least, you know, he got north of 30 minutes. There were times this year where, like, even when Jackson wasn't in foul trouble, he was still at like 26, 27 minutes. So at least he played a little bit more. At 6,100, I think he's still really risky because for one, you have the foul risk. And then for two, it's like how many actual minutes, you know, is he going to end up playing? But there's clearly still a really high ceiling on him. Dillon Brooks, I think, is still pretty inexpensive at 5,500. He's likely to give you low to mid 30s. The issue with Brooks is that he's not a consistent scorer at all. He's not going to do a lot in the way of rebounding. He's not going to do a lot of the way of assists, but he still gives you that ceiling because he doesn't realize that he's not that good of a scorer and he's going to just go shoot anyway. Granted, last game he was only at 17.5%, but typically you do see a pretty solid usage rate for him. So I still think, you know, probably a little bit underpriced, but not the kind of guy that I typically like playing a lot of if he's popular. I prefer playing guys like Dillon Brooks when they're not popular. Clark at 6K, Bane at 6,700 if he's good to go. I think both of those price tags look pretty decent as well. Another 30 minutes for Clark. He's over a fantasy point per minute guy. Bane, 32.5 minutes last game. Really disappointing game from a fantasy standpoint, but typically around a 0.9 fantasy point per minute guys. So I think Morant stands out. And then, you know, Bane, Clark, Brooks, Jackson are all fine. The one other piece that I think deserves a mention based on last game, because we hadn't seen this.
Melton.
We hadn't seen this in the previous series, but Anthony Melton playing 24 minutes last game, 25 minutes last game.
Tyus Jones only played 12 minutes.
Right. Tyus Jones basically just backed up Ja Morant. He played a couple minutes alongside him. But in the previous series, you had seen Jones' minutes kind of ramping up a little bit. He was playing more minutes alongside him. You also didn't have Zaire Williams in the rotation, which is huge because in the last series, you were getting like 12 to 14 minutes from Williams. If you're essentially going to just take those minutes, give them to DeAnthony Melton, and then maybe even take a couple of Tyus Jones minutes and give them to DeAnthony Melton, you're talking about a really, really high upside option that is only $3,900.
Absolutely. I mean, there's always listen, was Melton legitimately out of the rotation at one point in that last series? Yeah, but it doesn't really, from series to series, so many things can change. So if his ownership is actually we have him at 6% right now, like if that actually holds up, even if he's at 10, 12% on a 2-game slate, DeAnthony Melton is a guy that's north of a fantasy point per minute on the year. Like he's actually a decent fantasy contributor. So
yeah, and like with guys like Melton, you can typically you're going to see their production come down a little bit in the postseason, their per minute production.
Right, I'm not
because they're
expecting last game's production today.
Well, right. But I'm saying even like during the, compared to the regular season, because you're playing more minutes alongside John Moran. You know, you have those guys on the floor more. But at 3,900 and with Melton being as good a point per minute guy as he is, the only real question to me is, does he get those minutes again? Because if you tell me D'Anthony Melton plays 22 to 24 minutes, I'll certainly just take my chances on how he produces. It's more a matter of like, it wouldn't be shocking if in this game they're just like, oh yeah, look, Zaire Williams is back and Tyus Jones is playing 20 and D'Anthony Melton's back in the doghouse, because we've seen a million games this year where we think D'Anthony Melton's going to get more minutes and Taylor Jenkins is just like, no, I hate this dude. He's not playing. So I think that's where the risk comes in with Melton, in that is that, his minutes certainly could disappear again, but based on the rotations last game, I do like Melton as a value option here, and I'll take my chances.
Yeah, and I guess the biggest thing too is there is a realistic possibility that he plays as many minutes as Gary Payton or as Pat Connaughton today, or as Otto Porter Jr. And all of those guys are getting way more ownership than he is. Like, not even close. And I'm not saying they shouldn't, because Melton's minutes are definitely more in question than those guys. But Pat Connaughton can play 25 minutes and still have 14 fantasy points.
Right. And I've mentioned it a lot. Like, my favorite guys, especially if they're not getting a ton of ownership, my favorite guys to kind of roll the dice on are guys like Melton, where I'm not positive how many minutes they're going to play. You could tell me he plays 14 and I'll be like, yeah, that's annoying, but that was completely reasonable. You can tell me he plays 26 and it's like, okay, cool, they ran the same rotation as last game. But at least with somebody like Melton, you typically know what you're getting. You're getting production when he's on the floor. So it's just a matter of finding those minutes. Guys like Pat Connaughton, and I'm not saying Connaughton's not a good value on the slate or anything like that. You have to take what you're given. But guys like Pat Connaughton, yeah, their minutes are more stable. It would be very surprising if Connaughton only played 16 minutes. It wouldn't be surprising at all if he played 26. So on average, you can certainly expect him to play more than Melton. But with Connaughton, you also then have to say, like, okay, well, I also need Connaughton to play well, play above his averages. Whereas if Melton just goes out there and does his thing, as long as he gets the minutes, he's pretty easy to rely on as far as production goes.
Absolutely. All right. Well, we're up against it. You got the MLB strategy show coming up next. Who's on that? Greg and Neil, I believe. Yeah, good pairing there. Greg and Neil Orfield. PGA strategy show at 1 with Ben Rasa and Eric Lindquist. MLB Live Before Lock, 3:45 to 5 with Neil and Terry. 5 o'clock, NBA Deeper Dive. Adam and myself will be back with you. And then wrapping it all up, it's the Live Before Lock show, NBA version with Greg and Eric. Appreciate you guys hanging out as always. Follow Adam, Ship My Money DFS, me at Lafayette_D. Shout out to Jordan Klein for producing this one. And hey, we'll see you guys back here a little bit later on the Deeper Dive. Peace.